Hi guys, I'm Woodcraft Hamster and I have just got back from work, though I appreciate you're probably watching this video on a Saturday now I come to think of it. But I just want to do a quick review on what's in this box. Now I'll give you a close-up of the contents in a moment, but this is the Beaver Bushcraft 1700's brass tinderbox and firelighting kit essentially. I've been after something like this for a while now. I've been looking around online and there's a lot of people that sell the tinderbox that comes as part of this, and some people put kind of things in there, you know, a bit of flint and steel maybe, or some amadou or some char cloth, but although this is relatively expensive, it cost me about £48 in total. When I look at what came with it, it actually kind of ended up being cheaper when you consider the contents. I should mention it's not a sponsored video. I paid full price for this, but I have had a quick look at this while I was at work earlier, and what I've seen so far I was really pleased with. So I'm going to move the camera just a little bit closer in and I'll show you what we've got inside this box. Right then guys, so here it is. Box it came in has got the Beaver Bushcraft brand logo on there, and straight away opening it up, here is my 1700's reproduction brass tinderbox. Now I'll move over to this a little bit more in a moment, but I just want to show you what else is in this box first. So to start with, I've got my invoice, and I was correct, it was £48. You may just be able to read a little bit of that text there, but basically what they're saying is that they've supplied the steel striker that I'd asked for, and they've actually included another one in there as well. Now I've just had a quick look through this, and I think I may have left one of them at work, but we'll get to that later. So you've got a couple of little bits of paperwork in here. One is about flint and steel fire lighting, the other one's a bit of company information, but you know, all very useful stuff, especially for someone who doesn't know how to use flint and steel. Now I've been using it for a fair while, I'm fairly confident that I know what I'm doing, but it was nice just to have a little read through that, and it certainly does look like it would help somebody who was very, very new to it. So what else have I got in this pack? I'm going to take out the more mundane stuff first. I've got 3 pieces of quite nicely napped flint, and there's another piece that's inside the box, so I'll give you a close-up on that in a sec. We have got some fluffed up amadou, sort of amadou dust I suppose you'd call it, something like that. Quite a nice big bag of it, you know, definitely good for a fair few fires. We have got some roughed up jute twine for making nest material, which is really useful. We've got a couple of pieces of regular dried amadou, nice and soft and flexible, take a spark really, really well. Another piece there. We've got a little random piece of rolled char cloth that was in the tin, and I've got another little bag of that as well. And here is the striker that came with it. There was another one very similar, slightly more open curves on the end, so it just gives me a couple of options, obviously that fit inside this box. And lastly, and I had noticed that they came with this, yeah, that's right, oh, and a business card with a little message on there. And the last thing, I'd forgotten this was part of the pack, these are sulphur matches, often known by the rather scary sounding title of lucifers. I think the reason for that is when the sulphur burns, it lets off a very kind of pungent smell that's associated with kind of fire and brimstone and the bowels of hell and that kind of thing. At least I think that's how they got their name. By all means correct me in the comments if that's not right. I've never used these before. I have considered making my own before, and depending on how well these work, I will certainly be thinking about making my own at some point. The idea being is you get a bit of charred material glowing, you hold the tip of these, which is coated in sulphur, melted sulphur powder in this case, and you just blow on the sort of the glowing ember, the blowing coal. This will melt and then combust, and then you've got the wood to carry the flame. So I will be doing a little bit of testing on these, I think, in the near future. So that is all of the good stuff that comes as part of this kit. As I say, it's not cheap, you know, 50 odd quid, and to be honest, the majority of that cost is for this tinderbox. I found these tinderboxes online, brass ones. Now this is solid brass, All of the other places I managed to find this from didn't say it was solid brass, it just said it was brass. Maybe they're the same thing, I mean they looked identical, but the cheapest I'd found one of these by itself was 35 quid. So let's think about that logically. So that's £13 extra for everything that came in this box. Now I did a quick look around online, and I don't think you would be able to buy all of this together for less or even for £13. So anyway, that's just my thoughts. So this is the box itself, and I think what I'm going to do, let me move the camera around just very quickly just to get a better angle to show you this. That's a bit of a better angle. Right, so here is the Tinderbox. As I say, it's solid brass. It's polished to a nice shine. You'll notice already that I have been, oh look, there's me. I have been putting a lot of fingerprints over this today just through handling it, and it will over time form its own little patina. That's fine. I mean, I like that. It gives it that kind of used, more rugged look. Some people won't, and if you don't, you can always just buff it off with a soft cloth every now and again and bring it back to sort of shininess. Now you'll notice here there is a hinge on one side on one of the short edges. Now normally you would expect to find this on one of the longer edges, and actually having opened and closed it a few times today, this does seem to make a lot of sense, and I'll move on to that in a minute. There is a little catch on the front here, and I'll give you a look. Let me tip out the contents very quickly. So there is the catch on the front. Feels like sort of a sprung steel kind of affair. It's riveted in there with a nice little brass rivet. And firstly, I've taken a sticker off here, which I need to rub down with some spirits or something, but apart from that, ignore it. But first thing you'll notice is this is quite big. It's a little bit bigger than an Altoids tin. This is because it's got this slight curve on the top and the bottom. It's actually a lot deeper than it looks, which means you can pack more material in there if you want to. Opening and closing this way, it just feels quite nice. I'm not used to it. I'm used to Altoids tins, which, as I say, open this way. But actually, do you know what? You'll pack a lot in here depending on what you want to use it for. I was thinking originally about filling this full of charred punkwood, and then getting my flint, which I'll show you more in a second, getting that on the punkwood, getting my steel striker on top of it, and using it just to light the punkwood in here. The more I think about it, and again, this is a really sort of vain kind of petty thing, I kind of want to keep this nice and pretty. So what I might do is use my original Altoids tin for my punkwood, and keep this just for my kind of lighting material and kit. So what have I got in here? This is actually my own char cloth. I transferred this in when I got home, just because it's a nicer, neater size to fit in here, and it just lays nice and neatly in the barn. I'll fill it up a little bit more than this, but it just packs nicely into that little indentation. Secondly, you've got this piece of flint. Now there were 4 of these in total, and hopefully you can see, I mean, I've been playing around with it in the car park at work today, but it's been throwing some really, really nice sparks, and it's quite well napped. You know, a lot of these fire kits you can buy online, they'll just chuck in a couple of bits of flint that have essentially been found on the floor with no real sharp edges. You know, and I like the fact that this has been thought through, and that essentially, you know, this is a proper piece of fire lighting flint, if you can call it that. So I was quite pleased with that. It came with 3 little sections of quite thick jute twine. The third one I was playing around with at my desk and just fluffed up. And I actually think, looking at the amount here, a single piece of this with a bit of char cloth, so this turned into this, and I think this will make a really, really nice small nest tinder bundle that hopefully I should be able to blow to a flame, and kind of get underneath a pre-prepared fire. And that's if you can't find suitable nest materials while you're out and about. Depends on your local woodlands, depends on where you are in the world. But you know, something as small as this to go in your fire lighting kit, to make something like that to start a fire with, I think it's a really good idea. If this does work out well, I think I'm going to buy myself a spool of this, and just take off sections as and when I need it. Obviously you can take larger sections to make bigger nests, so on and so forth. So that is this kit in a nutshell. Let me just flick the camera back round so you can see me again, and I'll give you my final thoughts. Right then guys, so final thoughts on this kit. The Tinderbox, I really like this. It was exactly what I was looking for. I have looked at the Hudson Bay versions as well, the sort of the oval shaped things that have a little magnifying lens in there. I did toy between the two. This one won me over just because its simplicity. And the fact that it really does cover quite a large period of time historically where people would have been using something similar to this, maybe not hinged in all cases, but you know, brass was a pretty popular material for stuff like this, yeah, as well as many others obviously, but I really do like the way the brass comes off, and I'm interested to see how this takes a patina over a little bit of time. The other content, you know, all the other little extras that come with it to make it, in my mind, a complete fire lighting kit. And there are a lot of places that sell this kind of stuff. You know, I was attracted to this particular one after sort of scouring Google for quite some time and trying to find what it was I wanted. All of the bits that came in here appealed to me because they're methods of fire lighting I either know work or I haven't tried before and wanted to give a go. Predominantly those lucifer matches, I really like the idea of those, and yeah, generally it just seems like a really nice, well built and well thought out kit. So that's it for today guys. Comments and questions in the box below. Hit like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I hope you'll all join me next time. Cheers guys.